Nay, man in a cave, one voice in the darkness, and a message that changed the world forever. Chapter 1. A cave in the mountains. Long ago, in a hot and dry land called Arabia, there was a man named Muhammad. He was not a king. He was not a warrior. He was just a man. Quiet, honest, kind. The people of Mecca trusted him. They called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy one. But inside, Muhammad was not at peace. He looked around his city. People were rich, but greedy. People prayed, but to many idols. The poor were suffering. Girls were buried alive. The strong hurt the weak. Something was wrong, and Muhammad could feel it. So he started to walk, away from the noise, away from the people, to a mountain near Mecca. There he found a cave. Hira, small, silent, safe. He sat alone. He looked at the stars. He closed his eyes. He prayed. Why is the world like this? Where is the truth? Is there a better way? Days passed. Nights came and went. Then, one night, everything changed. It was the year 610. Muhammad was now 40 years old. He sat in the cave, as always, but this night was different. Suddenly, the cave filled with a strange light. The air felt heavy. The ground seemed to shake. And then, a voice powerful like thunder, but also gentle like the wind. Read! Muhammad opened his eyes. There was a figure, a shining being, with wings, with presence, with power. It was Gabriel, an angel. Again, the voice said, Read, in the name of your Lord who created. Muhammad was afraid. He did not know what to say. He was not a poet. He could not read or write. But the voice continued, Created man from a clot of blood. Read, and your Lord is most generous. The words entered his heart. Strong, clear. They stayed. Muhammad ran from the cave, down the mountain, his heart beating fast. He went to his wife, Khadijah. He said, Cover me! She held him close. She listened, and she believed him. You are a good man, she said. God would never harm you. And from that moment, the journey of Islam began. At first, Muhammad kept the message secret. Only Khadijah, his cousin Ali, and his friend Abu Bakr knew. They believed, because the message was simple but strong. There is only one God. Worship him alone. Be kind, be honest, be just. It was a message of light, but also a message of danger. In Mecca, many people were afraid of change. The leaders loved their power. They loved their idols. And they hated this new voice, this new idea. Who is this Muhammad? They asked. Why does he speak of one God? Why does he say our ways are wrong? Some laughed. Some shouted. Some began to hurt the new Muslims. But Muhammad did not stop. He believed the message was true. He believed it was from Allah, the one God. And so, the story continued. Muhammad was not just speaking words. He was carrying a fire, a light, a truth. And that truth would grow. From one man, to a family, to a nation, to the world. But at that time, it was still just the beginning. One cave, one voice, one heart, filled with faith. What would happen next? Could one man really change the world? And how far would this message go? You will find out in the next chapter, chapter 2. Voices in Mecca. The news spread slowly, like a whisper in the wind. There is only one God. No more idols. All people are equal before him. Some people smiled, some looked confused, but others grew angry. This was Mecca, a city full of idols, power, and money. The leaders of Mecca were afraid. What is this man saying? He wants to destroy our gods? He is dangerous. His name was Muhammad, but they began to call him other names: liar, crazy, magician. But Muhammad was not alone. His wife Khadijah stood by him. His cousin Ali, only a young boy, believed in him. His friend Abu Bakr supported him with his heart and his wealth. And more people joined slowly, carefully, one by one. They were men and women, rich and poor, young and old. They came from different tribes, but they believed the same message. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. But belief had a price. The leaders of Mecca, the Quraysh, had power, and they would not let it go easily. They began to attack the early Muslims. Some were insulted in the streets. Some were beaten in the markets. Some were tied up, left without food or water, and some were even killed. A man named Bilal, an African slave, believed in Islam. His master beat him in the hot sun. But Bilal did not give up. He only said, Ahad, Ahad. One, one. The word burned in the air. One God, one truth. Muhammad saw all of this. He was sad. He was hurt. But he stayed strong. He spoke with courage. He shared the message, even when it was hard. Even when people laughed at him. Even when they threw stones. At night, he prayed. He asked Allah for strength. He asked for patience. He asked for peace. Years passed. The pressure became worse. The Quraysh tried to stop Muhammad in many ways. Stop preaching, they said. We will give you money. We will make you a king. We will marry you to the most beautiful woman. But Muhammad said, even if you put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I will not stop. It was not about power. It was not about fame. It was about the truth. Then the Quraysh became angry. If words would not stop him, maybe force would. They banned Muhammad's tribe. No one could sell to them. No one could help them. They were cut off from food and safety. For 3 years, Muhammad and his followers lived in a narrow valley. They were hungry. They were cold. Some days they had nothing to eat but leaves. But still, they did not give up. In the middle of this pain, Muhammad lost 2 people he loved the most. First, his wife, Khadijah. Then, his uncle Abu Talib, who protected him. That year was called the Year of Sorrow. Muhammad felt alone, but he still believed. One night, something strange happened. He was taken on a miraculous journey, a journey through the sky, from Mecca to Jerusalem, and then to the heavens. This journey is called Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. There, Muhammad met other prophets. He saw paradise. He saw hell. And he received the gift of prayer. When he returned, he had a new strength inside him, a calm heart, a clear mission. But the danger in Mecca was still growing. So Muhammad looked for a new home, a place where people would listen, a place where Islam could grow. And one day, that place appeared. It was called Yathrib. Later, it would be called Medina. The people there sent a message. Come to us. We believe in you. We will protect you. And Muhammad made a choice. He would leave his home. He would leave Mecca. He would begin again in a new city. Not with an army, not with war, but with hope. Would this new place accept him? Would peace finally begin? Or was the hardest part still ahead? Chapter 3. The Great Migration. Mecca was no longer safe. The believers were few. The enemies were many, and their hearts were full of hate. The Prophet Muhammad had to decide. Should he stay in his home city, or should he leave? Then a message came. From a city far to the north, a city called Yathrib. People from Yathrib had heard about Muhammad. They believed in his message, and they sent him a promise. Come to us. We will follow you. We will protect you. It was a light in the dark, a chance for peace, a new beginning. But the Quraysh would not let him go so easily. They made a plan, a secret one. They would kill him. One night, they surrounded his house, swords in their hands, eyes full of hate. But Muhammad had a plan too. He asked his cousin Ali to sleep in his bed. Then, in the middle of the night, he left the house quietly. He walked with his friend Abu Bakr. Together, they escaped the city. The enemies didn't see them. God was protecting them. For 3 days, Muhammad and Abu Bakr hid in a cave called Thar. Outside, men searched for them. They were close, very close. Abu Bakr was afraid. He said, "They will find us. But Muhammad said calmly, "Don't be afraid. God is with us." And the searchers passed by. Some say a spider made a web at the cave's entrance, and a bird made a nest. When the enemies saw the web and the bird, they thought, "No one is inside," and they left. After 3 days, Muhammad and Abu Bakr continued their journey. Across the desert, under the sun, over the rocks. It was long. It was hard. But it was a journey of faith. When they reached Yathrib, the people were waiting. They were smiling. They were full of hope. They called him the Prophet of God. They welcomed him with open arms. Children sang. Men and women stood in the streets. They said, "Muhammad has come. Peace has come." From that day, Yathrib became Medina, the city of the Prophet. This moment was more than just a move. It was a turning point in history. The Muslims now had a home, a place to build, a place to grow, a place to live their faith freely. Muhammad became not only a teacher, but a leader, a guide, a protector. He brought people together. He made peace between old enemies. He built a community based on kindness, truth, and justice. This community was called the Ummah, the family of believers. But peace would not last forever. Back in Mecca, the Quraysh were angry. They wanted revenge. So battles began. The first one was Badr. The Muslims were few. The Quraysh were many. But the Muslims fought with faith. They believed God was with them, and they won. Then came Uhud, a harder fight. The Muslims made mistakes. Many were hurt. The Prophet himself was injured. But they learned. They grew stronger. Then came the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, a peace agreement. It was hard to accept. But it showed the world that Islam was a real force. Not just words, but a nation. Years passed. The Muslim community in Medina became bigger, stronger, and more united. And soon, the Prophet would return to Mecca, not with war, but with peace. But that is another chapter. How did Muhammad lead his new community? And what would happen when he returned to the city that once rejected him? The answer is coming. In the next chapter, Chapter 4, Victory and Mercy. The Muslims were strong now. They had a home, they had faith, and they had unity. But Mecca was still the heart of Arabia. It was the place where the Prophet was born, the place where he received the message, the place where everything began. But it was also the place where he was hated, where he was hurt, where he was forced to leave. Now, after 8 years in Medina, the time had come. It was time to return. In the year 630, the Prophet Muhammad led a great group of Muslims, 10,000 people, all marching toward Mecca. But they did not come to fight. They did not come to destroy. They came with peace. The people of Mecca were afraid. They remembered what they had done. The hate, the violence, the betrayal. But Muhammad did not want revenge. He entered the city with his head low. He rode on his camel, quietly. No pride, no anger, only peace. The Prophet walked to the Kaaba, the great stone building in the center of Mecca. It was once full of idols, statues of stone and wood. But now, he pointed to each idol and said, "Truth has come. Falsehood has vanished." And one by one, the idols were removed. The Kaaba was cleaned. It returned to its true purpose, a house of worship for one God. Then the people of Mecca gathered. They looked at Muhammad. They were silent, waiting for his words. He said, "What do you think I will do to you today?" They replied, "You are a noble brother, a kind son of a kind family." Then he said, "I say to you what Joseph said to his brothers, there is no blame on you today. Go, you are all free. No blood, no punishment, only mercy." This moment changed everything. The enemies became friends. The hearts that were full of fear opened to faith. Many people of Mecca accepted Islam that day, not because of force, but because of forgiveness. The Prophet stayed in Mecca for a short time. Then he returned to Medina. He had completed his mission. He had brought the truth back to its home. But before the story ended, he had one more message to give. In the year 632, during the time of Hajj, Muhammad stood before a large crowd, more than 100,000 people. This was his final sermon. He stood on a mountain. His voice echoed through the valley. He said, "O people, listen to me carefully. I may not be with you next year." He spoke about equality. He said no Arab is better than a non-Arab, and no white is better than black, except by goodness and piety. He reminded the people to treat women kindly, to respect each other, to protect life, property, and honor. And he said, "I leave with you the Quran and my example. If you follow them, you will never be lost." Then he looked at the crowd and asked, "Have I delivered the message?" They all replied, "Yes, you have." And he raised his hands and said, "O Allah, be my witness." Soon after, the Prophet became ill, and on a quiet day in Medina, he passed away in the arms of his wife Aisha. He was 63 years old. The man who had once stood alone in a cave, now left behind a nation, a faith, and a light that would never die. Was this the end? Or was it the beginning of something even greater? In the next chapter, we explore how Islam spread beyond Arabia to the world. Chapter 5. A faith that crossed oceans. The Prophet Muhammad was gone, but his words, his example, his light, they remained. His companions were heartbroken, but they did not stop. They remembered his words. Spread the message, even if it's only one verse. So they stood up, and they carried the faith forward. The new leader was Abu Bakr, the Prophet's closest friend. He became the first caliph, the leader of the Muslim community. After him came Umar, then Uthman, and then Ali. They are called the rightly guided caliphs. Under their leadership, Islam moved beyond Medina, beyond Mecca, beyond Arabia. It reached the lands of Persia. It entered the Roman Empire. It traveled to Egypt, to North Africa, to Syria, to Iraq, and everywhere it went. It brought more than faith. It brought justice. It brought knowledge. It brought a new way of life. But Islam did not grow only through war. It also grew through trade. Muslim merchants sailed the seas. They brought spices and silk, but also words of peace. In West Africa, traders spoke about one God. In India, people saw the honesty of Muslim businessmen. In Indonesia, islanders listened and believed. Soon, mosques rose in places where the Prophet had never walked. From the deserts of Morocco, to the forests of Malaysia, to the mountains of China. But faith was not the only gift. The Muslim world began to shine in knowledge and science. In cities like Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba, great libraries were built. Hospitals, schools, universities. Muslim scholars studied the stars. They developed algebra, explored medicine, and translated books from Greek, Persian, and Indian cultures. During this time, called the Golden Age of Islam, the world was learning, and Muslims were leading. Of course, not all was perfect. There were conflicts, there were disagreements, there were divisions between Sunni and Shia, between rulers and rebels. But the core of Islam remained strong. Faith in one God, belief in justice, and the search for knowledge. Time passed. Empires rose. Empires fell. But Islam never disappeared. It changed. It moved. It adapted. In each land, it took new colors, new languages, new customs, but always the same prayer, the same book, the same direction toward Mecca. Today, Islam is followed by nearly 2 billion people. It is the second largest religion in the world. From the streets of Istanbul, to the villages of Nigeria, to the cities of Europe and America, Muslims pray, fast, and live with faith. The message that began in a cave now echoes across oceans and continents. How did this message survive? Why does it still speak to the hearts of so many people today? And what challenges does the Muslim world face now, in this modern age? Let's explore these questions in the next chapter.